Welcome to WAMD, the We Are Motor Driven podcast.
Hey, welcome back to the We Are Motor Driven podcast. I'm Harvey with Rides and Drives, and I'm here with my friend Jennifer Jensen from Auto Exotica, and I've got Paul, and I've got Brendan here from Sons of Speed.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about a pretty controversial topic, and that is electric vehicles. It seems like there are a lot of hot opinions about EVs. And we're going to dig into this from a lot of different perspectives because I sense some friction between us here at the table.
Getting hotter by the lithium-ion fire.
There you go.
There you go. Well,
Who's charged up the most?
I have one word, just one word: soulless.
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 Oh.
That's
what
the
it's like.
theme for EVs for me anyway. Okay, I think they're for a luxury car, they're fantastic.
They are
Yeah.
great appliances.
Well, I don't know. The Rolls-Royce Spectre, if that's an appliance, that's a pretty freaking awesome
It's a very
appliance.
luxurious. It's a Miele. It's a really nice appliance.
Sub-zero.
It's a step up.
It's the Sub-Zero of cars. Huh?
Well, yeah, no, it really depends on what you want your car to do. If you want your car to be smooth and silent and powerful, then EVs make incredible sense.
Yes.
They do.
As
Okay.
As a propulsion system.
So my sweetie works, I think round trip, it's about 55, 60 miles to and from work. Okay. Doesn't drive anywhere else. Just goes to work and back. And then we take my car.
Right.
Because I want to drive. An EV is perfect for that. Do a couple of days driving back and forth, plug it in overnight one night, EV back and forth. And then, I need to go grab something real quick at the grocery store that's 3 miles away. Zip, zip, done. Right?
Right.
And you never have to go to a gas station.
And never have to go to a gas station.
Or in this case, a charging station. Yes.
So I agree there are cases for EVs that are perfect. You live in a big city.
Yeah.
Go out to LA, right? It's Tesla and Prius land.
Yeah.
and G-Wagons. But that's Beverly Hills.
Different podcast episode, but that is the dumbest car.
I love the G-Wagon. You shut up.
Yes.
That is a podcast episode. Let's go. It's the German Hummer. Come on. But there are cases for EVs. I do not disagree at all. But what I can't wrap my arms around and have not been able to wrap my arms around is why the push for EVs instead of hybrids.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And especially when you look at like what Toyota's been doing and how their whole lineup now is pretty much hybridized, right? Mm-hmm. And when you look at the numbers, hey, it makes so much more sense to, give a 10, 15, 20, whatever, 25% boost to 100% of the fleet
Right.
than it does to electrify 10% of the
Right.
fleet. You're going to save more gas. You're going to put out less greenhouse gases that way. And that was kind of the thesis that Toyota went with and what got them in trouble with all the greens and, they're getting a lot. But today, with the battery technology we have, with the charging infrastructure we have, going all electric just doesn't make sense.
Right.
And
However, there's still some really freaking good electric vehicles out there.
There are some really freaking good electric
Yes,
vehicles,
and
but
we-
you said one of the biggest words, infrastructure.
Yeah.
Now I know we go back to 1900, right?
Right.
And there's not gas stations on every corner,
No, but there are oat stations for
but
the
there are
horses.
oat stations and water troughs for your horses and rails to tie them up to. So yes, that had to grow, and yes, the infrastructure will grow, but there's a difference. A charging infrastructure taxes everything else around it.
Yeah.
Gas doesn't.
We don't have the grid to really do what needs to be done to make electric
If you go,
vehicles mainstream.
I mentioned LA. You go out to LA, right? And let's say everybody has the coolest EV on the market, which is the Ioniq 5N.
And why? Yeah. We'll talk about that.
So everybody has that, right? But these aren't people, a lot of them aren't people in individual standalone homes, right? They're apartments. So now and it might not even have a garage, so you're parking on the street.
Yeah.
So now,
And even if they do have a house, it's probably a rental. Maybe the landlord doesn't want you
doesn't
to put
want
it in
you
the EV.
charging stuff. So you've instead of parking meters, you've got charging meters, and you're going to pay for parking and charging at the same time. That's the only way I can think they would do it because they got to make their money. Do you think an entire apartment building comes home and they all plug in at night? What's that going to do to LA? That's one apartment building.
Right.
And then there's another one and another one and another one and then a whole bunch of really big houses that need a bunch of electricity to keep them cool.
Yes.
Right?
And well,
Yeah.
we
So the infrastructure is the biggest problem.
that is the biggest problem on the planet right now. I think
do you
with
put charging stands at every parking spot in a city?
and
Like,
and
what do you
certain
do?
towns have done
Yeah.
that in other countries. I do want to go back to what Harvey was saying real quick because he, about Toyota. Toyota
Right.
came out recently and said something along the lines of our EV, our hybrid lineup is better for the planet than a bunch of EVs.
And they're not wrong.
And they're not wrong. Think about how much lithium ion and cobalt and all these really just toxic heavy metals that have to be mined oftentimes by children.
And the water you need for that.
Right.
Yeah, in places that are using slave labor or child labor, and it's not. So when you think about the overall green effect of, as you said, Harvey, if you get that extra boost over the whole lineup. It's better than the EV. And I think Toyota saw this coming along. I give them total credit for having vision ahead of time because everybody was jumping on the EV bandwagon and all these governments were pushing it. And Toyota was kind of like, let Subaru, or who developed their joint one with Subaru? I don't know if it was Toyota developed that. They only
Toyota
had one
and Subaru
BEV.
did the BZ4X,
The BZ4X.
Yep.
and the Solterra.
Right.
I
So they
think
did
it
the one. They were like, fine, we'll do one battery
which is
electric.
Not a
Not the
good
greatest
effort.
card.
Not a good effort.
But it was. I think it was a consolation prize to
Right.
the green
Sure.
people because they were like, "Look, we don't think this is where it's going, but we'll give you like a token EV, right? But look, we're doing all of this stuff, and they have basically made. I mean, you can't buy a Camry now that's not hybrid, so it's
And
all
the
standard.
Camry hybrid is an amazing car.
They're all amazing
Well,
vehicles.
because Toyota's been doing it the longest.
Right. So
Right.
what happened was, and this is I don't like governments pushing things on people. And what happened in this case is that the governments came in, and especially California and then the federal government, and they wanted to get to a place. And so instead of letting the market get to that place, or at least sort of just gently nudging the market in a direction, they just were like, nope, we want to get here, and we got to get
Well,
here by then.
they strong armed him.
And
By
they strong
2025.
What should have happened? Harvey, is that it should have gone to what Toyota's example is exactly what should have happened. It should have gone hybrid first, and then it could have gone battery electric, extended range vehicles,
Right.
And
plug-in
then when we
hybrids
had
and-
all of the infrastructure and the power
Correct.
in place, then it could have finally gotten to.
And that would have taken
BEV.
20 or 30 years.
But if the government wants EVs to be successful, then what they need to do is invest in battery technology. I don't know that they're not, but the government's spending a lot of money with the oil companies.
Right.
Right. There's
Yep.
a lot of subsidies in oil. Well, if we need solid state battery technology, right? That everyone says that's the holy grail.
Sure.
That it's smaller, lighter, doesn't use heavy metals,
Right.
all that
Less
good
likely
stuff.
to catch fire.
Charges more quickly.
Yeah, I just saw 5
won't
minutes
cause-
for a Chinese
yeah,
solid state battery to charge a car.
won't catch fire like
Right.
lithium ion does. If we want that, then let's do a government project that develops that technology and makes it great. And just like they did, with the Manhattan Project or
Sure.
whatever. If climate change is that big an issue and we need to fix it, then the first thing we need to do is get a battery that really works and not the crappy batteries we have
Right.
now. And then the second thing we need to do is build that infrastructure out, understanding that we don't need to replace gas stations.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You
At least
charge
not
at
right away.
home.
Yeah.
You charge,
Right.
at work. You do terminal charging as opposed to point-to-point charging, which is what you do with a gas car now, is you charge it on your trip,
Right.
whether it's driving around town or whatever. So it creates a different mindset. So I just feel like they've been not really committing, trying to let the market do it, but pushing the market a little bit.
A little?
And, yeah.
Or a lot of
but
it.
not,
Or a lot of
not
it.
doing it the way that if they were really committed to it,
Yeah.
would make a big difference.
Which
And-
leads me to think they don't really believe in it.
Yeah.
This is just a thing to stand on a podium and say we're going to save the world by making EVs. And EVs are not better for the environment. People trust us. EVs are not better for the environment.
That's
The
your
full-
opinion.
The full production from creation to the grave, cradle to the grave.
Yeah, there's a lot more
There's
ways.
a lot more going on. In
chemicals.
current
General
EVs.
consensus is that at 40,000 miles, you are now switching
from gas
from
to
the gas
EV.
to the EV being more green.
Yeah.
But then you have to recycle. Then you have all these batteries that are toxic metals, and what do you do
Well,
with
and,
them?
and what you need to develop is a closed loop recycling system
Yes,
for
absolutely.
car batteries. There is more lithium. There is enough lithium above ground in batteries now that are not being used.
Right.
That if we developed a closed loop recycling system, we don't have to drill for lithium anymore.
Mine anymore. Right.
Right.
Which would be
We
great.
don't have to mine for it.
why,
but we're
why
not-
can't we let the market do it? Because the market is speaking right now.
right.
Right.
No,
The market is speaking,
I
and
get that.
people don't want EVs.
Well,
Full EVs.
like you talked about, it's not the right technology for every use case.
Right.
So forcing people into an EV when it doesn't fit their lifestyle is a problem.
Seriously.
I think moving forward, things will get better for EVs, and then the big question becomes, as you talked about, how do you make them not soulless?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. To the efforts to that extent so far have been largely, I'm thinking mostly of the Photonic sound, artificial
Right.
sound from the charger, which I didn't like at all.
Yeah,
I thought it was
a
juvenile.
gimmick.
It's a gimmick.
Yeah.
And then you have the Ionic N,
N.
which has the artificial shifting, which does sort of does a good job of bringing back
Yeah.
some of the soul, but it's still, we talk about this all the time.
still
Paul-
artificial.
Paul and I talk about this all the time. An EV is essentially a skateboard with wheels and a battery.
Right.
And then you put the
So why don't they look cooler?
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But if every EV is essentially the same platform,
Right.
there's only so much you can do to differentiate it. It's gonna they all drive the same way. So he had the ID Buzz, and he was telling. I'm gonna say, how does the ID Buzz? And that's the Volkswagen minivan electric. He says drives just like every other EV. Well, if you can't tell the difference between that and something that's supposed to be sporty, and they are soulless.
Well, to
because-
Paul's credit, the ID Buzz is actually kind of sporty.
And cool.
Okay.
And it's fun and funky. And what you
Yeah.
have to do is differentiate.
Got a lot of people waving at me.
Yeah. You have to differentiate in different ways. So you differentiate through design, or you
Right.
differentiate through, how the technology is deployed.
True, but you're not doing it through
True.
the driving experience as much, because I don't think there's
Right.
actually that. I think the window of like bad to great is that the bandwidth is so narrow now because there's so little that goes into the drive experience.
Right.
Whereas we're sitting here today in a Porsche dealership, and if I want to go get a 911 GT3, that's going to be such a different experience than if I go get one of their Caymans.
Right.
Gas.
Or a regular Carrera. Quite
Right.
honestly, GT3 to Carrera. But Porsche, talking about that brand, Macan EV.
Right.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
they're even going this direction, which is sort of heartbreaking. I gotta
Yeah.
be honest.
And
It
then-
drives really well.
Well, and you've
Especially
driven the Taycan as
the
well?
quote unquote turbo model.
That's okay. That is the dumbest naming
Memo to
convention
manufacturers.
They've
ever.
known it forever.
Yes.
I mean, that's what
Did-
the
yeah, they-
top,
they
the
call
top
it
line is the turbo.
The
right?
Taycan Turbo, right?
Yeah, Taycan,
Yeah.
Taycan Turbo S, Taycan
For
Turbo.
them, the
doing
name
that.
Turbo is not turbo.
No,
It's
not anymore.
It's
well, the 911 went all turbo several years ago,
Yeah,
so
but
they're all
it's-
turbos now.
It's
But
a marketing word for them.
it's just
Which
it's
is-
just like if you go M on BMW.
And those
right?
who
It's
have
the
an
top of the
engineering
line.
background, and that's not me, but everyone else who's listening to this with an engineering background, is their like minds explode every time something like that
Yeah.
is used as a marketing number. I remember back in the 80s in Europe, 90s really, in Europe, that everybody who had a piece of crap Econobox was slapping a turbo sticker on the back just because that was the buzzword.
Because it was cool.
Because
Yeah.
it was cool, and that's
Yeah.
and we would laugh at that, and then here comes Porsche does exactly the same thing.
on a
On an
$130,000
EV.
Macan EV.
Right.
Please
But
don't
it
do
does
that.
drive really well.
Yeah.
The base Macan EV did not drive that well.
Interesting.
But the quote unquote turbo model did.
So what do you think they did to improve that?
It's suspension changes, it's steering changes, it's all of the things that they do to make the higher end, more performance oriented model,
So it
more
drove
performance
better,
oriented.
But did it bring any soul back into it?
It definitely has a semblance of soul. I won't say it's GT3 soul, but
This is
it,
like
it
AI.
was enough for one of my staff to buy one.
Okay. So this
Okay.
is like AI soul.
Yeah.
Like,
so we
it's a
mentioned
replication
the
of a
Ioniq
Soul.
5N. We all at this table really like the Ioniq 5N.
Yes.
And I was fortunate enough to go to the product launch for that at Laguna Seca, which was great. It was my first time actually driving that track in an electric
Lucky
vehicle.
you.
Right.
Don't rub it in.
We still
Okay.
can't find the invites of ours that got lost in the
Yeah,
mail.
got
Yeah,
lost in
I'm
the
pretty
mail.
sure I got lost. But it was impressive. It's an impressive piece of kit, but it's so tunable. There's so many different things you can do for that. And in the video review that I did, and we'll throw a link in our description for this episode down below. But just watch the first 15 minutes because one of the design engineers is sitting in it with me, walking me through everything.
Oh, cool.
And all of the things he talks about, I'm like, I don't even want to touch this. Please let you do this, And he's like, absolutely. And so he got in and walked through all of the different things and some of the engineering behind why they did those things because their purpose was to put soul into this EV.
And that's great.
Right.
And there is a semblance of soul in the Ioniq 5N.
And the more they do that, the more car people will
Right.
Gravitate
like
to
it.
them. Yeah.
Well,
But it's programming. It's all computer code.
Yeah.
You change this
Yeah.
button, you change that
I
setting,
did.
you
I
change
did a
this
quick
thing, and it just
TikTok video
changes
where
that.
he said it's like playing a video game.
It really is.
So but they are trying at least
Yes.
because the shifting was
Yeah, the
when I was
quote-unquote
doing on a
shifting.
video I'm doing it on a video and Brendan's just laughing his ass off the whole time.
Yeah, I drove it on Road America, and
Yeah.
shifting was funny.
Yeah.
Well, and so part of the reason was because they want people to take this car to the track because the Elantra ends do go to track, the Kona ends do go to track, so they want the Ioniq 5N to go to track. And what do you do when you're driving hard on a racetrack? You listen
Yeah.
Yeah.
for sounds, that engine to know when to change because everybody who's been on a track, the whole episode we talked about this, your sound of your engine and you
Right.
know when you need to shift. And so they worked that in. And I'll tell you, the first 3 hot laps we did were without that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay.
Like,
Yeah,
when
you have
do I
no
brake?
reference.
There's like
what do I
wind,
do?
and I'm just looking at the signs on the side, like, okay, that's 300, 200. Now I brake, whatever, but it's heavier, so I broke late, But the second session we went out was with engine noise, again in air quotes, where they actually sampled their 2-liter turbo, right? And that's the sound that's going in. It sounds similar but fabricated, but at least you knew kind of what you should do. Are you shifting? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not. It's just a break in what it's feeding you.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I had a Zero electric motorcycle for a month.
Oh, wow.
And they sent it to me and said, "Hey, ride it and review it and
Yeah.
all this." So and
And you said, okay.
okay, fine, I'll do that.
I guess.
But it was that exactly. There was no engine noise. There's a little bit of a whine from
Yeah.
the belt, but otherwise you lose a lot of reference. And so I found myself riding faster actually on
Really?
that than a typical motorcycle because of not having the engine noise.
Yeah.
I'd look down and go, "Oh, maybe I need to dial back a little bit."
There's a reason people can't last 20 minutes in a sensory deprivation room.
Yeah.
Right.
The audio is part of life's experience. And if you
is.
take it away, it makes it worse. And that's why you have these companies trying to add sound back in because they're like, it can get too quiet and it's not helpful for the driving experience.
No,
if you're flying in an airplane, fine, be as quiet as you want. I put my noise canceling headphones in. I don't want to hear the airplane.
Well, maybe if you're not flying the
No, no,
airplane, but
exactly.
flying
Flying
in the airplane.
yeah.
Okay.
As a
that's-
passenger.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I do want to hear those things that are going on.
Right. As a pilot, you probably want to hear those things. But that's not the driving experience I'm looking for. Unless I happen to be being chauffeured around in my Rolls Royce.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I don't want to hear
I'm
anything.
sure Harvey can elaborate on this, but I believe they had to add some sound back
Yeah.
in because
Yeah.
In the Ghost.
it was too
In
quiet.
Ghost, yeah. When they
Yeah.
first launched, when they first were working on
Driving
Ghost,
people nuts.
it was so quiet. It was
Could hear your heartbeat.
eerie. And
People are hearing their ears
so they
ring and-
tuned the amount of
Yep.
sound and the frequency and everything that came back in to create a relaxing
Yep.
sound for that.
And they
So,
did do
yeah.
a good job because
Oh, yeah.
the
No,
Ghost is a
Ghost
very
is-
relaxing
Oh,
car to
look,
drive.
the day Rolls Royce doesn't do a good job at something is the day we should all just hang it up.
We drove one at the rally, and I have to say it's choice.
Yeah.
Choice.
is
If you have
very-
the means to pick one up, I highly
I
recommend
recommend
it.
Well, but
But even Rolls Royce is going electric.
yeah,
the
and
Spectre.
I had Spectre last year. I drove it home from the rally and had it for a week, driving it around. And the interesting thing was, I remember it was probably 10 years ago. I was at Pebble Beach, and I got invited to breakfast with Rolls Royce. Oh, cool.
Fancy.
So, super fancy. So we're sitting
brought
at
the
the
Grey
table.
Poupon, right?
And yeah, we were talking to the CEO at the time, Torsten Müller-Otvos, and said, someone asked him, he said, so why don't you guys have electric vehicles? Because everything about electric
Yeah.
makes sense for
Right.
what Rolls-Royce want to be. It's
Exactly.
quiet and all this stuff. And the weight, nobody cares about the extra weight in a Rolls-Royce, right? That makes it better. So he said, we have to build cars without compromise.
Yeah.
Our customers will not accept compromise. And
Right.
so when they could get it to the range that they wanted, and they were shooting for 200-ish
Yeah.
miles of range, that's when they came out with
The Spectre's like
electric.
almost 250, isn't it?
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
they wanted it to be enough
Yep.
that people didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Nobody's driving that car cross country.
I
right?
would,
But yeah, we would
We
because
should.
we're weird.
We should.
Yeah. So Jerry, if you're listening, we
Yes,
would
Jerry.
love to do a cross country in the Spectre. Just
You know what? It's
let us
quiet
know.
enough. We could do this podcast
do
in
it.
one of those. That
love
would be awesome.
great.
There you go. We're going to do a podcast episode of Spectre whilst driving across the country. I love it.
So
I'll be the chauffeur.
there
Okay.
you go. So, but yeah, I mean, it's that use case. If you're
Right.
living in Westchester County, New York, and you want to drive into the city and have a luxurious experience, well, now Spectre's perfect for
Yep.
that, right? You can drive in, drive home,
Right.
plug in at night, once or twice a week, and have all the range you want. But they were not going to compromise at
Yeah.
that point. And when they did their first experiment with it, I think it was called 103AX or whatever, they did an experimental where they electrified a Phantom,
Mm-hmm.
and it just, with 100 miles of range, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
But now that they're
you hear
at
that
250
BMW with the i3? 100 miles does not make sense.
BMW. How about that Mazda?
Yeah, that Mazda.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
what is
Oh,
it? The
yeah, yeah, yeah.
CX-30 or
Uh,
the M? I forget. It's
What-
so
is it-
forgettable.
isn't it
We've even
35
forgot the name.
miles?
It had like 50 miles of range
Is it
or
50?
something. It was
Who
crazy
cares?
low.
That's how much I care.
Well, I remember, years ago, the first Leaf when that came out, and
Yeah.
I was talking to Eddie Alterman at Car and Driver.
Yeah.
I was over there, and he's like, "I can't drive this car home because I can't,
Can't make it.
can't make it and get back."
Oh my gosh.
So the initial
funny.
range on those things were so bad. They were, they were such a specific use case
Yeah.
for people.
But okay, so Harvey, you've said use case, I think 14 times so far
Yeah.
in this episode. I'm going to go back and count. But isn't that why we have small cars, medium-sized cars,
Yeah.
large cars, small trucks, medium-sized trucks, big trucks, SUVs? Like we already have use case stuff. So why not just throw in EVs as an additional alternative for the use cases that make sense instead of having governments mandate that by 2025, which never was going to happen, and now by 2030, which still isn't going to happen,
Right.
to have everything EV and no ICE anymore.
Yeah, that's that doesn't work. It certainly
we do
doesn't.
agree.
We do agree on some things.
Yeah, right.
But you talk to a rancher out in the middle of Nebraska,
Right.
Who's got to get his cattle
market.
to market, right?
Right.
And needs to tow a big trailer with his heavy duty pickup
And
truck.
should have a diesel.
Yeah, you're not gonna
Period.
electrify that
Right.
that use case, or someone who drives long distances for a living for one reason or another.
Right.
But if you're talking about Amazon delivery vehicles that drive 150 miles a day
And can charge overnight.
and can charge overnight at
Garbage
a depot,
trucks.
garbage trucks,
Great.
school buses,
School buses, awesome. Those
there's
things,
so many
absolutely.
places where
Less pieces to break.
yeah,
you
where
know.
it makes sense. Your maintenance is less. Your If you're charging overnight,
Yep.
you're using, your costs go way down, all that stuff. But forcing everyone into an EV, it doesn't work. At the same time, and I talked about this earlier, we wouldn't have seatbelts right now.
Right.
We wouldn't have anti-lock brakes. We wouldn't have cars that meet certain crash standards if the government hadn't stepped up and
Right.
said, look, manufacturers, you got to do something about
Right.
this.
A lot of
And
that stuff
so-
was incremental, though, and
Yeah.
I think that's where the government went wrong. Is that this was a sea change,
Right.
And instead of doing it incrementally, they just went, okay, 10 years from now,
Yeah.
no more ICE vehicles,
more
and
ICE.
it's like. Wishful thinking, right?
Right.
And so, and of course, they had to backtrack, but it creates a lot of uncertainty. And so, what you had is all these manufacturers, sans Toyota,
Spending billions of dollars.
oh man, the amount of money that they flushed down the toilet trying to get to that place that was never feasible or
Well,
realistic.
part of the challenge wasn't also, yes, the government was saying, let's build EVs.
Yeah.
The other part of the challenge is these guys at GM and Ford and other manufacturers are looking at what Wall Street is valuing Tesla at
Right.
Right,
and going,
yeah.
how do we get some of that sweet speculative money? And now Tesla's paying for it.
Right.
Because they're, what they thought would be this great 100% EV, it's not going to be that
Right.
way. And
So the market is talking, and
Yes.
the market is saying no.
Yes. And
So
you see
I
I
that,
think
you
the market
see
is
that-
saying not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, but also
so
you see
when
it-
does it change? That's the question. How
well,
does
you
it
see
flip?
it in the resale value of EVs.
Oh,
They
yeah.
tank,
Yeah.
drop off a cliff.
If you
And,
want a
and you know
Model
what's going to
S,
happen
get
even
one that's a year
more?
old.
What's going to tank it even more is when they do change to solid state batteries, and if you can't retroactively
swap it out?
swap it out,
Yeah.
because then not only do you have, it's like who's walking around today with an iPhone 2.
right.
No,
I'm not.
You're not. So the obsolescence of technology just speeds up as
But cars are different.
they're supposed to be. You can drive a 1950 car right now.
Right.
And it will still work. But could you drive a 2013 Tesla in another 10 years? Is that if the battery is going to eventually degrade to the point where you can't really use it anymore? And what happens then? And if you swap it out, do you need to swap it out for another lithium-ion battery when the world has moved on to solid state or
Right.
something else? Then that's the problem, is that the technology is going to continue to improve and move at such a speed that we're going to have a bunch of disposable EVs.
Yes. You
And
can't-
that's where I think.
And are you going to spend 60 grand or more on a disposable car?
No.
That going to have no resale value.
you can't put a DVD in a VHS machine. It's not going to work, right?
You can. Getting it out. That's interesting to say that. So we had an episode called Tech in Cars. It was like episode 3 or 4 of this podcast. And we talked about this stuff not from the EV point of view, but from like the touch screens and all of the other things. Looking at like the McLaren F1. There's I don't remember, I think it's 3 computers in the world now that can connect to the McLaren F1's brain, right?
Wow.
And so they're all in Woking.
Yeah.
like at McLaren's factory. and so
England,
they
yeah.
fly.
And they're trying to keep them alive.
They fly the F1s there. They can't come to you anymore, right? And so our cars are already becoming disposable devices. Like everybody at this table never looks at a car that way.
No.
We don't see them as appliances. I name mine. We've talked about
Right.
that. Like they're a member of my family.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
So but is it going to be like an iPhone? Where you're just buying a new one because it's the new one, and then you trade it out and you get another new one and you don't care.
Well, it may be, and we know that the enthusiast side of the automotive industry is the smaller side, right? 25%, whatever, are
Yeah.
enthusiasts. 75% of the people buy a car because they have to.
'Cause they have to
It's
get
A
somewhere.
to
They
B.
have to get
A
somewhere.
to B, that's
right.
all it
And
is,
those
yep.
guys are, that's why Toyota sells so many Corollas and, and all this stuff. And so fine, for the volume of the market, let's make, really reliable, useful, easy to drive EVs for people who,
With a closed circuit recycling.
who need that kind of stuff. And then let us have some fun.
Take the manufacturers take
Yeah.
the money you get from that
Yeah.
and then make something really cool.
Yeah.
Right.
The Halo cars, basically.
So I'm going to come back to the question I asked. What's going to flip? The market is saying not yet to
Right.
EVs. So what's going to flip? My opinion is range
Yeah.
and or charging. So if you can charge anywhere,
Yeah.
really quickly, like in 5 minutes or less, like you would stopping for gas. Or when you plug in over the weekend, you're not going anywhere after church on Sunday, you plug in and you unplug on Monday and you have 1,000 miles of range.
Yeah.
I would buy that EV right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
makes sense.
and
But
that's-
there's still that soul thing, right? When are manufacturers going to make EVs really fun to drive?
well, I'd argue that some are.
Some
right?
are.
They're getting there.
I mean,
Some
the
we're,
Audi.
we're definitely getting there,
Wait,
but we're not there yet.
Doesn't Toyota have a system of a EV with a manual transmission?
They were talking about that, and I think it went away.
Well, they prototyped it.
Yeah.
I know people who've driven it, or I know of people that have driven it. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what they were thinking too, is that we need
Okay.
to somehow get that in there.
Going back to Paul's soul. Paul is on the soul kick today.
Yeah.
He's a soul brother with a smooth jazz voice.
Oh man.
Soul.
Taycan is fun to drive.
Okay.
Taycan Turbo S is amazing to drive, and it's a rocket ship.
Okay.
The new Macan EV, I did not want to like. I really didn't. And I didn't like the base one, but the Turbo was good enough for somebody on my staff to buy.
But would you
The Ioniq
take
5N?
the Taycan or Taycan
Taycan.
Turbo S over a GT3 RS?
Would I?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Right.
But that's my point.
However, I've got a friend who has a Lamborghini Huracan Performante.
Okay. You said that
And
very well, actually.
He lives in LA. I tried just for you. Lives in LA. And I was surprised to find out he has a Taycan Turbo S because he doesn't want to sit in the Lamborghini in traffic.
Yeah.
Surely.
So for his daily driver, it is a Taycan Turbo S.
Okay.
And I was like, in that use case, going back to Harvey's thoughts here, if I were living in LA or Chicago where you guys are, I live in Oshkosh,
Yeah.
we don't get traffic jams, though I was just in one 2 days ago. And I was glad I was in a truck with an automatic. But if I was in Chicago or if I was in LA traffic or New York, where New York's going to charge me every time I come into the city, I could see dailying an EV.
Yeah.
Daily? Yeah, I have no problem with that. I'm just talking about, okay, we're going to go on a
But I
mountain.
would still
we're
have
gonna
another
go
fun
on
car.
on a curvy mountain road right now.
As the only car, hell no.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, you got the
Ever.
Taycan
Hell
Turbo.
no,
You got the
ever.
GT RS, sitting GT3 RS. Okay, Jennifer? Which one do you take the keys to go on that canyon
You
road?
don't need to ask the question,
Okay,
Paul.
okay, all right, but that's my point.
And
But it doesn't mean
no one's taking our cars away. Okay.
Yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yes.
no, they're not going to come and take your GT3 RS out of your garage and say, "Sorry, you can't have this anymore." At some point in the future, you may not be able to buy one. Again,
or get
a new
gas
one.
for
Or
it.
get gas for it.
No, there will always be a market
will
for
always
it.
be.
I actually
winter. There's
20
always a
I-
market for gas cars.
basement mixing up some.
a bunch of years ago.
Be like this new speakeasy.
Yeah, a bunch of years ago, Bob Lutz wrote an editorial for Automotive News that was all about doom and gloom,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
car
yeah.
enthusiasm is dead because of things
Right.
like, autonomous driving and EVs. And I was just, sorry, Bob, you couldn't be more wrong. As long as people have a passion for this, car companies will find a way to
Yeah.
cater to them.
Right.
They'll find a way to put some soul in this. And it's going to be different than the soul of
Right.
a GT3 RS or a 69 Camaro
Right.
SS or whatever but the enthusiasm will be there, and then for those of us who love gas, we'll still be able to have them. It'll be an expensive hobby.
Yep.
You'll probably have to get a membership at a place like Road America that'll say, come drive your car on our track or
Yep.
whatever. But it's going to change. Unfortunately, I'm 100% convinced that human-driven climate change is a thing, and we have to do something about it. And this is one of the things that has to be done.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who obviously don't agree with that position. But the EV use case makes sense, as you said. Just not to have to go to the gas station would be a nice thing.
Yeah.
If you don't need it for a longer
Or change
trip
your oil
or any of
or
that
all
stuff,
the
right?
service
maintenance
stuff.
stuff. Now, if you
Brakes
want
and
to buy
Tires and brakes, and
Tires and-
not even brakes that much.
with
With
regen.
regen.
tires,
Yeah.
are
Tires.
EVs are harder on tires, so you'll spend
Because of
more
the
on
weight.
tires. Yeah.
Because they're fat.
And the minute, and it's not just tires, it's roads.
Yep,
it's
exactly.
parking garages
Yep.
that were designed for, 3,500 pound cars that
Yep.
now
Right.
all of a sudden have 6,000 pound cars.
Or 10
Waiting for
10,000
that,
pound Hummers.
waiting for that Hummer to fall through the
Yeah.
Oh
fifth
my
floor
gosh.
parking floor to the fourth floor to land on
Yeah.
something else.
I mean,
just keep going.
and so to me, you said this. When's the switch going to flip?
That's my question.
And it's going to be when we get a battery technology, whether it's solid state, whether it's gel batteries, who knows what that is going to be. But when we get a battery technology that is more energy dense, that can charge quicker, that
Yeah.
you don't have those fire hazards, any of that stuff, and you can either choose to have a smaller battery with a lighter vehicle and 300 miles of range that I can recharge in 10 minutes.
Yep.
Or you can put a lot of them in there, not have too much weight again because these are lighter technologies,
Yeah.
and then drive 600 miles.
And of course, getting back to infrastructure, there's also the possibility, which we're seeing in experimental areas, they're testing the induction charging in the streets,
Right.
in the roads.
If you get that on highways, then
Yeah,
range
so-
is no longer an issue.
Right.
The other thing that we could do, that they do in Europe is, and if everyone's ever driven like an Autobahn in Europe, and I use that in the loose sense of any expressway system in Europe, their sort of pull-off gas stations are not like ours. They're literally like almost little villages. I mean, you've got a coffee shop, a restaurant, a guest, there's...
Sometimes you have hotels right
hotels.
there. Yeah.
So you pull in to one of those places and fill up. You're expected to stay 45 minutes to an hour, and it's really a break.
Right.
Right. It's like you've been driving all day, or for a few hours, or maybe 5 or 6 hours. You should take a break, have some coffee, get some food. Take a little bit of a breather so that you're fresh again when you go drive. Perfect time to go charge your EV up.
Yep.
We don't really have those here. We have gas stations, and we want to get in and out as fast as possible. But if they were to build more of something like that, and we kind of have a little bit of that.
Oh,
you've
you've got your Buc-ee's that you like.
the
so
Buc-ee's,
much.
right?
That's how I use Buc-ee's. But even just like there's nowhere to sit at Buc-ee's. So
Right,
that's
that's
so that's the only downfall, is that there's nowhere to actually sit down and have a cup of coffee. But if we had a European style station like that, it would have gone a long way to alleviating the concern over how long is it going to take me to charge, because that
Right.
45 minutes to an hour would have been perfect. So I think it's going to be a lot easier for Europe to make that transition, because you just have to add the charging stations to
Well,
a
also
place
the
like that.
distances between cities are much less. too.
Exactly. So they don't have Wyoming, Texas,
Yeah.
Right.
Alaska.
Montana.
Montana.
no, I mean, that kind of infrastructure makes tons of sense on the East Coast.
Yep, it
Right.
does, totally
Yep.
does.
Boston, New York, Washington,
absolutely.
Philadelphia.
That East Coast
easy
corridor.
to, yeah,
Yep.
easy to do.
So one of the things that if you have an interest in EVs, you might want to act soon, because I don't think the new budget bill that's being considered, or may by this time you hear this, may have already passed. It doesn't have any more tax credits for EVs. So I think the $7,500 is going away. It's already been restricted to a certain number, depending on where the
Certain number of
vehicle and the
vehicles sold,
battery
yeah.
comes from. But what happens after that? So now you got the subsidy goes away. Do manufacturers respond by lowering the price? And if they could do that then, why can't they do it now? Because I remember there was a time when the F-150 Lightning, once they got qualified for the EV tax credit, all of a sudden the price jumped by exactly how much the tax credit was, because they're like, oh, tax credit. Yeah, we'll take that. Thanks. And that's like, no, that wasn't for you.
Wait a minute. A car manufacturer trying to make money?
No, no way.
It ain't so.
I know, but really, I mean, everything has gotten so expensive in cars in general. But EVs, like if you want a good EV, they're getting expensive. I mean, look at what we drove, the Cadillac Escalade IQ.
Yeah.
By the way,
Really nice.
really nice vehicle.
Yeah, really nice.
A super awesome vehicle. 100, what was it? 60, 50,
Something like that.
60,000.
Yeah, with
Good
the
gravy.
options that were on it. Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
But it closes the doors by itself.
yeah,
Well, there you go. Why didn't you get that instead of the Ram? So, okay, we've bashed on the market a lot. Let's talk about what manufacturers are doing right with EVs, because I think there are some good things out there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, the manufacturer that has done the best overall from full lineup is Hyundai Genesis. I think I have to say, You know, you can
Are
get
you
entry
talking
level.
about like a gasoline going electric, or like Tesla that just started there?
Yeah, I'm talking about mainstream car companies. I'm not. I honestly, I've been in a couple of Teslas, and you know, fine.
No one does
I
full
find-
self-driving better than Tesla, though.
I've driven every Tesla.
Yeah.
I've been
including the
driven in a
Roadster,
Tesla, standing behind the wheel, or sitting behind the wheel.
throughout the years, and I will say, like early on, I mean, the Roadster was a redone Lotus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
That doesn't count.
it was fun and heavy. The original Model S, I drove one of those, and then I sat in the back, and the carpet was coming up, and
Yeah.
I was like, "This is where we are." Okay.
Yeah.
And they haven't gone far from there,
No.
based on the build quality
Then I
of the
drove a Model
Cybertruck.
X with the Falcon doors.
Yes.
And it was like the big power dual motor, like all the things.
The glass and the windshield goes over your
Yeah.
head.
And I was like, this is actually really cool. I really liked the Model X.
I did too.
Then I drove the 3. And I was like, oh, this actually makes sense. I could see owning a Model 3 for my sweetie to go back and forth to work.
Right.
But it's a little cramped. And then the Model Y came out. And I was like, oh, well, that would be the one.
Yeah,
then.
I think what Model
You know?
Ys are most successful.
And
the most
then I
best-selling.
saw some video, because this happened several times, of somebody getting trapped in a Model Y
Mm-hmm.
and dying and burning
Yeah.
because they couldn't get out. And
Right.
I was like, we will not be buying that car.
Well, that's because, and I actually have a good friend who was an engineer at General Motors, recently retired. You know, Tesla tried to recruit him
Okay.
to come work there, and he was a manufacturing engineer, and you know, did all kinds of really, like the Cadillac CT6 and a bunch
Okay.
of really cool cars. But he said, I would never go to Tesla
Yeah.
because they don't respect what I do. They're technology people.
Yep.
Who think that manufacturing is just you know, something that you outsource.
Yep.
Right.
Assemble the parts.
Yeah. So you know, that's
Well,
why.
But yet, aren't they the most U.S. based
Sure.
car company?
For sure.
Yeah,
oh, you
but-
mean outsourcing within the country, though?
Yeah,
Okay.
but their mindset is manufacturing is just it's not a differentiator.
Right.
It's just it's something that you have to
Right.
pay for, and what and it shows in the way their cars are built, and it shows in, you know, Musk having to go into manufacturing hell to get the Model 3 out when they did,
Yeah.
you know, after they were so far behind schedule. You have to have respect for the process to build a car,
Right.
because it's not like a phone.
To build a car well.
It's not like it's not like a phone where, oh, you hold it in your hand, you set it on the table. This thing's going to go down the road at 60 miles
Rapid
an hour,
speeds.
hit potholes, do all this stuff, and you have to know what happens in all those cases. And yeah, my friend was like, no, I'm not going to go work there where they don't respect what I do.
Yeah.
Getting back to your question, I agree with Harvey that Genesis GEMB platform, which is their global, I forget what all that stands for, but
Yeah.
it's their global
Yeah.
EV platform has produced some of the best EVs, I think, quality wise, handling wise. The one thing I remember very vividly is we drove back to back the GV60, which is the Genesis
Yep.
EV. Then we drove the Ioniq 5, the first one, no, not the N. And then we drove the EV6. And those all three had very different driving characteristics.
Yes.
Right.
With the EV6 being the sportiest of the three and just
that's
hustling
the Kia.
through, and that's the Kia. And that was just like hustling through a twisty road. It actually did, you could tell the difference.
Yeah.
And they all had their own strengths. Like I thought the Ioniq 5 was great for the interior space. The Genesis was the smallest of all of them, but just had some really cool tech. You know, like you Face ID for the door, and you could start the car with your thumb, and it had that cool little
ball thing.
ball thing that
Yeah.
rolled over to like so you could shift. So they
There was the
have,
only one that had the boost mode at that time.
and they have
too.
boost mode.
Oh,
so
right.
they
Yep.
have the Hyundai group, I'll just call it that, has embraced the possibilities with EV. I think best among manufacturers in that they take the platform and then they really go out on a limb in different directions with it for their different brands. And so by doing so, they're obviously differentiating
Yep.
what each of those related but not the same brands do.
Setting up a different personality.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's the way that you're
But
supposed to
I
be
also
doing
remember talking to the Hyundai person, and she was very.
it. We're not Kia.
What's that?
Basically, they'll say like we're totally different
but
than
she
Kia.
was very disappointed in their sales.
Oh, that part
You know,
too.
so that was the downside of all that.
Well,
yeah.
because right when they hit their stride is when they restricted the EV credit to U.S. only manufacturing and batteries.
Yeah, and I think part of that too is even without, I mean, look, even with the credit on, the price value for comparable EV and ICE car wasn't there.
Right.
Right. It's like you have to buy an electric car because you want an electric car.
Right.
Correct.
Not because it makes economic sense.
Correct, 100%.
Now,
Even with the incentives on it.
One more thing on the Hyundai Group. The one vehicle that is an EV only that I'm actually kind of really looking forward to is that rally-looking thing that Hyundai is supposedly
Oh,
going to build, and
yeah.
it's going to cost a fortune, but it looks like
Oh,
a
like the
rally car.
164, whatever. It's
What
just
is-
like
what is
some
that thing
number or
called?
something. I can't remember.
It's based off of the Gran Turismo thing.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name right now, but
Oh, let's see if I can
I got
find
to
it.
see it at the Nürburgring. It was really cool. They are planning to make it, but they said possibly hydrogen too
Yeah.
for that car
Yeah.
instead of E EV.
And they are, most manufacturers have been looking at multiple technologies.
Well, Porsche,
Porsche's got synthetic fuel.
they're synthetic fuel.
Right. But hydrogen is still an electric vehicle.
Right.
Yes.
You're just using a hydrogen
Right,
fuel
exactly.
cell instead of a
battery.
battery.
Yeah.
And that has its own problems.
You mean exploding?
Yeah, well, not that problem, because that's not
refueling.
refueling.
Yeah, refueling.
The
Which can be the part
distributing infrastructure again
Yep.
becomes a problem because if you want to get, say, hydrogen into Manhattan,
Yeah.
you can't take it across a bridge.
Right.
You can't take a truck with hydrogen gas
it
in
at a
it.
very low temperature. Too,
Yeah.
Right.
So.
So all kinds of
So what you're saying is we need cold fusion. That's what I've heard in this podcast today is we need
Okay.
cold fusion,
So here's the question,
and that will
I
solve
have.
all the problems.
What's the best? What's your favorite EV you've ever driven?
Ionic 5N for me
Yeah.
so far. I just love the fact that they put the gear changes in. So, even though it's a synthetic gear change, it's not a real one because the car only has one gear.
Right.
And also the sounds. As fake as they are, they kind of add to the driving.
Then you can get the really
experience.
fun fake sounds like the
Like the
afterburners.
aerospace, yeah,
and
Yeah.
the
and
spaceship and stuff, yeah.
And when you shift, it
Yeah,
does a sonic boom.
that was
kind of thing.
That
It's
was
so
really
gimmicky.
corny, but at least the engine sound of the Elantra N
Yeah.
being there at least helped a
Doesn't
little
the
bit.
Tesla make farting sounds if you wanted to?
Apparently.
Yeah,
Probably
So
do
I
any
guess
kind
those
of
are
sound.
better
yeah.
than
so,
the Tesla.
but I have to say at the rally we were just at, the Charger EV actually was impressive. We
Yeah.
kind of went in with like, we're gonna hate this thing. And we
So
kind
the
of
Dodge Charger, because when you say Charger, we're talking about EVs. That's kind of a
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, funny that it's
But when we walked out of it, we were kind of looking at each other like, hey, you know what? This
Not
is
so
pretty
bad.
good. This is
Yeah, it actually drove halfway decent.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's named Charger and that
Yeah,
Charger
that's-
that name existed in 1966.
right, like Ford
It's
with the
just
Lightning.
kind of
Yeah.
kind of fortuitous. What about you?
For me, probably the Lucid Air.
Okay.
Very nice
I
vehicle.
really,
Yeah.
I loved that one. Great range, super comfortable, incredible performance. The one thing that I was surprised by is, it has a full glass roof on
Right.
it. That gets really hot.
a little toasty.
Surprisingly hot, even with the, the film on it and
Right.
everything. I was shocked that it warmed up as much as it did. I think I had it in July or something, and it
Okay.
was warm outside, and the
Yeah.
sun was shining, and there was more radiant heat in the car than I expected.
Huh.
Interesting.
But I really like the way that drives. If when you're talking about new electric car
Sure,
companies,
yeah.
yeah.
I know what you're talking about because I have a glass roof in the Corvette that it stays away in the hot months. It only comes out in fall and spring because it's like a greenhouse. And Jennifer, how about you?
That's a tough question.
You've driven probably a lot more EVs than Paul and I have.
It
I know.
depends on the use,
Right.
I think the Sport Turismo Porsche, which is like the station wagon Taycan.
Oh yeah.
We had that, and then the off-roady version, right? And the off-roady version was super fun. We actually road tripped it from LA to Vegas, and had to stop at a Walmart to charge, but it charged in like 15 minutes. We're inside shopping, and the little app's like,
Wow.
your car's charged, and I'm like, cool. Just got a few more things and left, and made sure we had a 240 outlet on the outside of our Airbnb so I could charge it when we were there. but it was super comfortable. It was quick as, I mean, it was fast, you know, for a station wagon, air quotes. I think that was probably the best all around EV that I've had, but I love the design of the Ioniq 5.
Yeah.
Not even just the N, just the Ioniq 5. I think that car, Harvey, you'd mentioned this before in a conversation. I don't remember if it's on the podcast or just between us, but you said it reminds you of the Star Trek pod ships that they go down to the planets on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I never saw it that way until you said that. I'm like,
Yeah.
dang it, Harvey.
It has that Gene Roddenberry
It
Star
certainly
Trek
does.
vibe to it.
And-
My kid loved that car, and he bought one. He was just like, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Get the N or the regular?
no, the regular.
It does
Before
it-
the end came out.
It does it right. The Ioniq 5
Yeah.
does it right.
Yeah.
It's that skateboard chassis, and so they went a little bit outside of the box, quote unquote, you know, the 2-box, 3-box designs
Right.
for cars, and have something that looks a little bit different, but it still looks like a car or a starship. And it's like a living room inside.
And that's what's also nice about
It's
it.
huge.
The fact that it does look different
Yeah.
from the outside as well as the inside. So when you look at the vast landscape of automobiles, that looks different. That
Yeah.
stands out, actually.
Yeah. And so I think that's probably my favorite EV on the market. But as far as driving experience, I think that Sport Turismo.
Nice. I'll have to kind of echo a lot what you guys said. The 5N was, I mean, we drove it on the racetrack. I set
Yeah.
some lap times with it. We'll have to link to that video too because we ran it against the Elantra,
Elantra
N.
N, yep.
So it was like the N versus the N, the gas versus the
Smart.
EV, and it was great while I had battery.
You're right.
But it was a long drive to the racetrack, and there was no fast charging there. So
Right.
that's a whole nother problem. But just as an EV, I was trying to convince my wife that she really wanted an Ioniq 5.
Yeah.
Back when they first came out, and they still had the tax credit attached to it and all of that fun stuff. Because I like the way it looks. The utility inside
The
is really
execution
cool
is top
because you
drawer.
can move that center console
Yep.
back with just a latch and it's on a slide,
Yep.
and then that whole front floor is open,
Flat.
It's really cool.
Flat and open.
It is what when you think of a futuristic car, that's what I think of. And to go back to something we were talking about a little bit earlier, I do have the name of that Hyundai concept, and it's called the hot end Vision 74.
Vision 74,
The
okay.
Vision 74 concept. This thing I could totally see myself
looks
buying.
so awesome.
It is. I love like the Lancia rally car look.
It looks like
And
the
the old
Delta
Stratos.
Integrale. Yeah.
It does.
it does. And it's just, man, there's something about that shape that you just look at it and you're just like, oh, God, I want one of those.
Well,
So-
I would think as a designer, having an EV platform to build on
Oh, yeah.
would be
it's
like
like a clean sheet almost.
Yeah, because you don't have any of the restrictions of
transmission
where's the
going through the
transmission
center of the
going to
car
go,
and
where
all that,
do we
yeah.
have to put the gas engine, where's the gas tank,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
you know.
To that point, the coolest thing that was, we saw this at an auto show, it's the Ram REV Revolution,
Rev,
whatever. The full battery electric one had the coolest thing, which was that you could run
Like a
2x4,
12-foot pipe or something through the whole
thing,
Yeah.
from the back of the bed
Into
through
the
the
cab.
cabin
Into the cab.
into
Yeah.
the frunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like 14 or 15
Yeah.
feet. Yeah,
Right, so
so
it's basically
that's
as long
pretty
as the truck is.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that, okay, whether you like EVs or not, you have to appreciate when a manufacturer takes advantage of what an EV represents,
Right.
which is a flat battery on the floor, in the motors on the wheels or between the wheels, and then nothing above it.
Right.
And so what can you do with that? If you just had
Anything
that-
you want.
Right.
Right.
Well,
But
crash
don't,
test limitations.
Well,
and
within that margin.
Yeah.
But don't do like something that everyone
looks
else
just
has-
like another car.
But here's where I think, and I don't, not to bash on Acura because I've owned a few of them, but I don't think they're going in the right direction where their EVs look just like their gasoline, cars. There's
Yeah.
like almost no distinction.
And
That
BMW's gone that way.
ZDX looks just like any
Right,
other
any other
SUV,
Acura.
and it doesn't even have a frunk,
Right.
Because so it's like it doesn't like. What are you doing?
Well, in the GV70 from Genesis, they basically just took their gas and converted
Yeah.
it to electric. So to those who don't want to look different, okay,
Yeah.
you have that
GV80.
option. I don't mind it as an option, but it'd be to be exciting, do something different. Bring something out
Get us
that
excited
gets
about
us
EVs.
excited about
Yes.
your vehicles. And you have the opportunity. It's, engines are a weight. They're in the way. Drive shafts are in the way. Things like that, you have to deal with.
Especially your 4-wheel drive, you got more stuff going through
Right.
the whole car. Yep.
I mean,
None of
do
those
something with
issues.
it.
Yep.
Right.
You know what the EV I'm besides this Vision 74 that I'm most looking forward to, and I think because of everything we've talked about, they're sort of shying away from the pure EV and going to a range extended, is the Scout.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys see it at
Yeah.
the rally? So
Yeah, great
the Scout
execution.
Oh, I was all over this thing for like
It was
20
a
minutes. I
very
did
nice looking SUV.
We have to
Very
link
nice.
to the video we did with one of the designers of the vehicle. It was really impressive. I mean, I know, again, it was a prototype vehicle, but man, if they make it look like that, and it has range because it's
Well,
a
and there's a
battery
brand with
extended.
heritage, and so you
Yeah.
have something to
I
pull
know,
from.
and it just looks so
but
good.
make
though.
it, so you're bringing back that brand heritage with the design, but then doing something unique and fun with it.
As an original Scout 2 owner,
Yeah.
I could really appreciate that
Yeah.
vehicle and how they did it and what they
You
did.
could tell
It's-
that they cared about the heritage
Yeah.
and that they
Yeah, for
were
sure.
really taking their time. This isn't, it's still like 2 or 3 years away.
Yeah.
I think it's
definitely
3 years
late
away.
to the market, but they
They're-
are trying to do it
Well,
as
the,
right.
doing it
good
right.
news about being late to the market is they've been able to develop an alternative powertrain to a
Yes. Right.
straight BEV.
Yeah.
Which, as
So
we've
it's
talked
kind of
about.
like,
and it's
kind of like when I,
integrated. It's not like an add-on piece.
well, have
So-
you ever procrastinated to the point where it actually worked out in your favor?
Yes.
Yes, I've done that many times.
many times.
You're like, I'll get to it. And, I don't need to get to it anymore.
Well, the replacement for Porsche's 918 Spider
No,
was supposed
bull.
to be all electric, and the Mission X. And if you look at that car, good Lord, it is beautiful. But then they went, nope, we're not going to do that now.
Well,
Right.
didn't they just get rid of the not the GT4? Well, the platform, the
Well, the
Caymans.
718,
Yeah,
Cayman
the
Boxster.
718s. The gases are going to
The
be
gas
gone,
is going away,
which I think is just a horrible.
and now there's
horrible idea.
rumblings that will not be going away forever.
Okay, so it's like the Hemi. It's going to come back.
Its replacement is an EV.
Yeah.
The mid-engine Porsche's replacement is an EV, but now there's conversation that it might not just be an EV.
Again, going back to sound though, and not only the sound but the vibrations. Like when you're on a racetrack or you're driving a mountain road, like that's all part of the experience, and it's just sort of like cutting off like your arms, or like right. There's something missing here.
Look, as someone who just spent the weekend at Road America watching Indy cars go around,
Yeah.
And have you ever seen an Indy
Yeah,
E-race?
I've seen
oh my God.
Formula
I
E.
just
Formula
saw,
E.
and I know you saw it too, F1 last night. F1 the movie
I
last
haven't
night.
seen it yet.
Okay, can you imagine now if there was no sound?
Oh, there's sound. It's just a bunch of wind and tire noise.
Silent movie.
Charlie Chaplin will come
No,
out.
I mean, yeah. Look, I grew up at the racetrack.
Yeah.
I grew up driving Porsches and Scouts and my brother's '67 Camaro, and I got it's in my blood, right? And to see it have to go or have to have this change is sad, but at the same time, it's an opportunity for people to do something different, do
Right.
something better.
I think the way that, let's say, just Corvette just went with the ZR1X,
Right.
it's a hybrid.
It is a hybrid.
It
All-wheel drive.
makes 1,200 plus horsepower.
1250.
Yeah.
but the electric is used to enhance performance,
Right.
not to replace performance.
Why can't we just do that?
Yeah.
It still sounds awesome. It's really, really fast, and it's going to just
Okay.
put everything to shame
So I have the solution
from Europe.
other than cold fusion.
Okay, let's hear
So
it.
those people, Harvey, you gave a number before that 20 or 25% of car people are enthusiasts, and the rest are appliance buyers. So let's have EVs and hybrids that are appliances on a recyclable loop for those people. Mm-hmm. And then all that money can be generated to make the really, really cool stuff for
Jennifer
the
for
enthusiasts.
president.
Well, I mean,
I accept the
essentially
nomination.
that's the market now. You've
kind
got,
of is.
You've got your Camrys, you've
I
got
know.
your,
And that will happen as
But to
long
do a Camry TRD, come on, that's fun,
Yeah,
right?
as long as you
Exactly.
don't let like the hedge fund managers run car companies or people like that. As long
Bean
as it's the Bob
counters.
Lutzes of the
Right.
world who want that kind of thing, then yes, that will happen.
Yeah.
But so it's just you could be very cautious of the bean counters and the the financial guys running car companies
That was
because
a scary look you
The
just gave me when you said
data,
that.
the data guys.
I don't want you stay away. Leave our toys alone.
Well, listen, I think we've kind of beat this one over to death. We were hoping to have a guest on this one to talk EVs, so we'll probably come back to this topic at some point with somebody in the market who can speak more intelligently than we can.
Yes.
About what's happening with infrastructure and why the push for EVs.
I do want to throw one plug out there. If you're on Facebook, there is a group called EV Everything where Paul and I run this group. And if you want to just talk directly to us about anything EV related, go search that out, EV Everything. And come have a conversation with us. Let's
That
talk about
nomenclature
it.
makes sense for some reason. So you can find us out there on wearemotordriven.com, on YouTube. Just look up We Are Motor Driven. I am Jennifer with Paul and Brendan and Harvey. And I guess our question this week would be, do you like EVs? Do you want an EV? Could you see yourself driving an EV? And if so, which one? Let us know in the comments below. And until next time, we'll see ya.